Spring blooms are finally starting to pop, and color is coming in quickly now. I'm planting cool weather flowers I started from seed, and George prunes his first hydrangea, and if you've never done it, it's easier than you think.
Hi, it's Steph. Welcome back to my garden. Well, it's that time of year, friends, where our peonies are starting to push through the ground and it's time to put up those supports. So let this be a reminder to you, if you have herbaceous peonies, it's time to get that done, because once the foliage comes up, it becomes a lot harder to support them. Now, with herbaceous peonies, the blooms get pretty heavy and they get quite a bit of foliage. So if you have a windy day or it rains, the plant will flop to the ground under the weight of those big blooms and you won't get to enjoy your flowers. So it's really important to offer them some support. And I have this peony ring here, which is like a grid that the foliage will grow up through and will keep everything nice and supported. So I'm going to go ahead and push this into the ground, and then I will work on doing my other ones after. I just like to stand right above the clump of the peonies when I'm putting my grid, just to make sure that it's centered and that it'll grow right through this grid. Looks good. The other thing I like to do in the spring is fertilize my peony to give it some extra flower power. And what I like to use is the Espoma bulb tone. It actually lists right on the back to use it for peonies, so that's what I'm going to do. So as soon as I put up the rings, I fertilize at the same time so I don't forget. And I just kind of go around the peony and I scratch it into the soil. And the next time that it rains, it'll get watered in. And that's it. But this time of year, the garden is really starting to wake up and we have things growing everywhere. I went through recently and I cleaned up this bed, and I want to show you this climbing rose right behind me. So a couple of seasons ago, I planted a Zephyrine Druin rose, which is a climber, and it's a thornless rose here on this trellis. Well, you can see that it's gotten pretty big, and I'm a little intimidated by this rose because I don't have a lot of experience with climbing roses. I do know that they need to be pruned a certain way so that they will push out lateral canes and you will end up with more blooms, more evenly distributed, versus them only getting blooms at the top. And my plan here is I bought these clips that you put underneath the siding, and we're going to attach some fishing line to it. And George is going to help me prune the rose and train it on the shed. I think it's going to look really pretty on the wall of the shed, coming along the front, and those bright pink blooms. And I'm really excited about it. Excuse the mess. We're currently working on a couple of projects around the garden, but we are going to make a cobblestone apron here like we're doing in the other area of our yard, and we're also going to recess these cobble on the edge of this border. But the star of the show is our Magnolia. It was actually in peak bloom about 2 days ago, so it's already starting to fade a little, but I absolutely love it. If you don't have a spring flowering tree in your garden, I highly recommend it. And I would say that this one is my favorite, but whatever tree is in bloom at the moment is usually my favorite. But this Dr. Merrill is really early blooming for us. It is so fragrant, and this time of year the smell just wafts through the air. It's really intoxicating and just lovely. And I enjoy Magnolia so much. We actually have 3, and I recently ordered a new one that I've had on my wish list for a little while. It's called the Genie. It has these deep burgundy purplish blooms, and it's a rebloomer. It's also more compact. And guess where I found it? On QVC, who is the sponsor of today's video. As a gardener, I received my fair share of plants in the mail, and I was really impressed by this plant. It showed up in beautiful condition. It was so healthy, the soil was moist, and it was well taken care of. I was recently browsing their site while looking for decor for my new greenhouse, thinking about shelving and ways to display plants, when I came across these really cool Martha Stewart iron plant cages. They're super easy to use. You just open them up and you can fold them flat again for storage. You can line them with coconut core and plant them like a hanging basket, or place a pot inside. You can even use them right in the garden bed with landscape pins as decorative garden art. The more I looked around, the more I found, including tools. Since weeds get out of hand quickly in spring, I picked up this Martha Stewart weeding tool. It has a really beautiful wooden handle and feels well made. It comes with a guard to protect the blade when you're not using it. Then I started to browse their plants, and what stood out to me is that they carry some really unique varieties. I also found a really fun summer annual. If you've been around for a while, you know that I love mandevilla. It's heat and drought tolerant and blooms non-stop all season long. On QVC, I came across the Cottage Farms Jazzy Summer Trumpet, which is a type of mandevilla, and this one has a really unique blue tone flower, which I've never seen. Everything ships directly from the grower to your door, and it arrives at the proper planting time for your zone, packaged well and ready to go. I know a lot of you love picking out your own plants in person, and I do too, but I also hear from some of you that you don't have great nurseries nearby, or you just want the convenience of delivery. That's where QVC really makes things easy. They have a wide mix of products from home and clothing to gardening, including plants, planters, decor, and tools from brands like Bernini, Cottage Farms, and Garden Reflections, all in one place and shipped right to your door. I'll link everything down below, and these are limited time offers and items can sell out quickly. So if you saw something you like, it's worth checking out. You can look at qvc.com for other gardening items, and they also have a YouTube channel with demos and tips. Thank you so much to QVC for sponsoring today's video.
Let's take a look at a couple more things that are starting to bloom. This is my Katsura Japanese maple. It's our first maple to leaf out. Has really pretty coloration, reds, oranges, yellows, and in about a week, it's going to be fully open. And then all of the other maples will start to leaf out. And right back here in my woodland bed, all of the daffodils that I planted last season are blooming and looking really pretty. And it was a mixed bag, so I have some white ones and some yellow and orange, and it's looking really pretty to add a pop of color back here. And a magnolia, another magnolia that's blooming. This is my Ann magnolia. It's very similar to the Jane. They both have a purple pink bloom in a tulip shape, and it's really beautiful. When we were over by the shed, I showed you that apron that we were starting to work on. Well, here is the other one. This is the path that leads you down to our raised bed garden and to our new greenhouse. And all that's left to do is just add some joint mortar, but I think it turned out really nicely. And once this is complete, we can start working on the path. Let's go look at a couple more things in the front yard that are blooming. And here in the front yard, I have a magnolia that I was after for quite a while. It is an old-fashioned saucer magnolia called the Solangiana, and it has the most beautiful blooms. They're white, tinted with a little bit of pink, and they even look like they have a hint of peach as they age. It's a really pretty specimen, and I think it's going to fill out this space beautifully as it ages and gets more mature. But about 3 years ago is when we planted it, and it's starting to put on a little bit of size now. And we also planted this beautiful tree at the same time. This is a Yoshino cherry tree, and it is gorgeous. But what inspired me to plant this tree was the beautiful one that our neighbors have down the street. And George is over by our neighbor's tree, the one that inspired us planting our own Yoshino cherry. And when you drove into the neighborhood, I wanted you to be able to see sort of a rhythm and repetition so that you would see that gorgeous tree, and then off in the distance, you would see our beautiful tree. And I'm so happy with the way that it's growing. It has such a beautiful shape and such a soft pink, almost white coloration. So again, I highly recommend putting some spring blooming trees in your garden, because when not much else is blooming, these come along and just make you smile. They're gorgeous. Over the weekend, we finally got a little bit more spring cleaning done, and this bed was one of the borders that we cleaned out, and I was able to plant some of the seedlings that I've been growing, cool weather flowers. I have some alyssum in 2 colors. I have the Oriental Nights, which is a purple alyssum, and the Carpet of Snow, which is a white alyssum, and I interplanted that with some dwarf bachelor's buttons and some baby rainbow stock. And as this fills in over the next couple of weeks, I think it's going to look really beautiful. But I also had to get these Bobo hydrangeas pruned, and guess who pruned them for me? Our cameraman. I'm going to insert some footage so you can see how he did as a first timer. It's Saturday morning, and I asked George for some help to come outside and do some cleanup while I get some of my cool weather spring annual flowers planted, and he's doing a great job. Thanks for your help.
I got 1 bucket full.
Yeah.
So this stuff has been easy. I'm just pretty much cutting it down. I'm not really being too precise, right? Just as long as it's
good.
down.
I'll take it. I'll take any help I can get.
All right.
But he asked me if he should prune the hydrangeas.
So I've never done one before. I've pruned Japanese maples, but never a hydrangea, right?
Why don't you tell us how it's done, George?
Actually, you tell me. This is what I think I want to do. So
yeah,
I got my pruners.
It's official.
Yeah.
Now it's time to get to work.
They're being used, right?
Yep.
All right, so you have these areas of the stems that have a Y. So
Yep.
there's a Y here and a Y here, right? So depending on how high we're gonna go, we wanna go to the Y.
Yep.
This is what I would do.
Where would you cut it?
I
Above
would
what?
cut it right above this node right here where a leaf was gonna come out.
That's
right
right.
here.
Yep.
So I do this, and then I do the opposite side. Right here is where the leaf node would come out, like that.
Perfect. And what do you want to take out? What kind of sticks?
So I would also do this one.
Yep.
Anything
that crosses
small and thin.
Exactly.
So like I'd probably take this out, right?
Yep.
Am I right? So if I go
You
up
are.
and I go like that,
Exactly.
right? You just want a bunch of Ys.
You want to make a nice, strong framework. Take out anything that's too thin that won't support the weight of the blooms.
Right. So this is thin. This is really thin.
Exactly.
So are you okay with this height? Like if
Yeah,
I do
that's
that all the
perfect.
way around?
Yes. These are very mature bobo hydrangeas. They're a panicle type hydrangea. They will grow to their regular size regardless of, how far we cut them. They're going to want to grow to the size that they are naturally. So it doesn't matter. He barely can't make a mistake on this. But he's doing a really good job, and I'm so happy to have the help.
So I'll do there's 5 here, right?
There is 5.
I'll
Yep.
do these 5 and I'll do them alone. All
Yes, you
myself,
will.
and we'll see how these push out and what they look like.
I think they're going to be great.
All
And
right.
then what's the next step after we're done with the pruning of them?
Fertilize.
Yeah, and it's going to rain
So
tomorrow.
actually, you had an example where you fertilized this one last year, right?
Yes.
And then you forgot to fertilize the 4,
Yep.
and then this one was like really robust and
That's
big.
right.
And these were all like really.
It was so interesting. I was doing
lot
the
smaller.
spring cleanup, and I had done this one, and then I had to go do something in the house. Never got back out here for a while. And by the time I did, they were starting to leaf out, but I went and I tried to clean up, just deadhead the old blooms on the rest of them. And this one had such large blooms and looked really good, and all the other ones had a lot of small blooms. So that's what happens when you don't prune them. They'll just have smaller blooms because there's so many more branches.
prune and fertilize.
Prune
right?
and
You did
fertilize.
both.
Yep.
All right.
And I'll show you the flowers that I'm actually planting. I started this baby rainbow stock this year. I got the seeds from Baker Creek, and they are so pretty, and they've been blooming for a long time. I've actually already deadheaded them once because it was too early to plant them out, and this is their second flush of blooms. I'm going to go ahead and plant them along this border, and then I have a bunch more things in my gorilla cart to get planted as well.
I know I should leave, 'cause you're driving me mad. You burn like a fire. I'm so goddamn naive. I keep coming back, 'cause you're taking me higher.
These are the dwarf bachelor's buttons that I started on the 25th of January, and look at the root system on them. They are basically root bound, so I'm roughing up the roots a little bit and I'm gonna get them planted. But they look really good. So today is what, April 18th?
Yep.
So just about 3 months.
3 months.
And they're a good sized plant. And I actually already pinched it because it was getting ready to bloom so that it can get bushier and get more blooms instead of it just being skinny and tall. So I'm really happy with the way these look.
Getting sweeter. We wake up in my bed. I forget what you did, but it doesn't make things easier.
I'm planting out some of my winterstone poppies. This is the Shirley Poppy Mother of Pearl, and I just took out the whole chunk that was in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rip pieces off of it, and I'm going to plant it using the hunk of seeds method. So you basically just take a piece and you stick it into the soil, and the strongest ones will survive, and they'll have to fight it out. But I hope that a few make it because I would really like to see how these look. But last year I did this with my Flanders poppies, the hunk of seeds method, and it worked really well. Well, it's been about 45 minutes and George did all 5 of the hydrangeas and they look really good. It's kind of hard to catch on camera because they just look like a bunch of sticks. But George, I think you're a pro now. You can start pruning our hydrangeas
Yeah, it wasn't
every
too
year.
bad.
Yeah.
It was about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So what are you going to do now?
Now I'm going to give it some tomato sauce.
I use this jar to do the holly tone.
Yeah.
So about a half a jar per plant.
All right.
And you just sprinkle it around the base of the plant, and then we'll scratch it in. It wasn't supposed to rain until tomorrow, but it's actually starting to mist. So it's the perfect time to get down the fertilizer so it can do its thing.
So that's it, right?
Yep, that's
And then
it.
just scratch
you
it
can
in?
scratch it in, or I even have a little rake that you can use if you don't want
It's
to do
fine.
that. It looks really good. George, do these bloom on old wood or new wood?
All right. Because I just trimmed them, I'm gonna say new wood. So the new growth will have the blooms.
That's right, you got it.
Yeah.
So panicle hydrangeas, it doesn't matter when you prune them or how you prune them, they're very forgiving because they bloom on new wood. So we're gonna go ahead and finish fertilizing, and I'll keep on planting. So as you can see, panicle hydrangeas are really easy to prune. So easy, a first timer could do it and nail it. He did a really great job. And here in my front walkway, I actually did the same thing. I repeated the same border of the alyssum, the baby rainbow stalk, and the dwarf bachelor's buttons. And I can't wait. A couple more weeks, this should be really colorful. But check out this shrub. This is my candy corn spirea, and it now has its orange coloring. It emerged about a month ago. It started to the foliage started to come out and sort of leaf out in red, and then it ages to this beautiful orange, and then it will go yellow and chartreuse and bloom in June with these clusters of pink blooms that the pollinators love. So I really enjoy this spirea. If you want to add one to your garden, check out the candy corn. It's a really pretty one. So I hope that you've enjoyed checking out these really early spring bloomers here in my garden. Let me know in the comments what's blooming in your garden at the moment, and thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.